Welcome back to the show, and many thanks for staying with us. Like I said, we're getting into some analysis of the NPP's committee that's looking into their win at the 2016 elections. Well, in the studio with me, like I said, is Evans Mensah. He heads our political desk here at JoyNews. Evans, good to have you.
Thank you very much, Gifty.
All right, let's start with the NDC and what they are, NPP, and what they are likely to find. They've set up a committee. I mean, the Kwesi committee came up with their own reports, which has been leaked, of course. Most of the people who spoke about it said that they already knew. Someone like Nilaya Fotiagbo said that they knew what made them lose. Yeah. So why do they even go? And so those are some of the issues on the other side. When we come to the NPP, what would you say they are likely to find in their bid to know how they won?
A few things. They need to establish in concrete terms what happened. There are a few things, a few specific things to look at. First of all, what were the positives? Why we've tried the same person, the same running mate, they've tried 3 times. It failed on 2 occasions, it worked on the 3rd occasion. What was it specifically that worked for us this time around? What were the factors that helped us win this time around?
At a 3rd attempt.
At the 10th attempt that, were not at play at the 1st and 2nd attempts. They need to find that out. A few things that they might discover based on what I understand to be the reason why it worked for them this time. Historically, when we have one candidate, the same ticket go for 3 times, historically, because we've had a similar case in John Tamil's case, run 3 times, you gain a certain following, by also your name recognition,
popularity,
your attraction, yes. From election to election, you sort of kill your demons. You overcome them in a way. The things that people didn't like about you, because each election you learn something different about yourself. You improve. So from 2008, 2012, Nana would have improved significantly because we would have known some of the things that worked against him. So they need to find that out. What were the significant gains? For example, in the last elections, Nana, I will say, was very, very open in terms of his relations. One of the things that had been held against him was the fact that he's unreachable. Exactly. He's too elitist. This time, I would argue that he managed to connect a bit more. So that's one of the key things. But also...
And smile a bit more, perhaps.
But yes. But in terms of the personality things that they need to establish, will be how Bawumia grew in leaps and bounds from 2008 to 2016. He was an absolute, the goose that laid the golden egg for them in 2016. And that's one of the things they need to see, because if the party that is looking forward, they need to find out what worked so that they can amplify those for 2020.
So they're likely to find the role of Bawumia.
Absolutely, that's one of the key things. Yes. And they need to quantify it. Quantify it in terms of, in the 3 regions of the North, how many votes did his personality bring on board, especially in that part of the country? Because they won a number of seats there. They knocked off a number of the NDC candidates there who people thought could not be knocked off. So that's key. They need to look at that. That's one of the key things they need to look at. But also, they need to look at some of, I guess, some factors that I would consider to be factors that show that their victory was strong in terms of the percentage difference. But if you look closely at the numbers, and the devil is in the detail, it tells you that NDC lost significant number of votes. A huge part of the reason why the NPP won. If they established that is the case, that's what I believe to be the case. I haven't done no scientific research, but just purely based on numbers. From 2012 to 2016, John Mahama in 2016 had 5.5 million votes to win. Nanado had 5.2 million votes to win, a difference of, 300,000 votes. That's why the challenge is the Supreme Court, because it's so small that you can turn it over, right? In 2016, John Mahama had 4.7 million votes. He's lost 1 million votes. You would think that if that is the case, then there should be a natural handover, so to speak, of those votes.
Or should reflect in the numbers of the NPP.
Nanado. Nanado, however, had 5.2 million votes. 5.7 million votes in 2016. 5.7 million votes. He only increased his votes by 400,000. Okay. 400,000 is significant enough to win your
So the million
election.
that the NDC lost did not
necessarily go to him.
To the NDC.
And you see this at play quite strongly in the voter region and other areas where typically had been NDC strongholds.
Okay.
They did not vote for the NDC in their huge numbers, but those same numbers did not go to the MPP. What that means is this. If in 2020, NDC manages to push itself strong enough to bring back all those voters, core voters, who did not turn up to vote in the 2016 elections, for which reason they lost so many votes. If they manage to turn them up and get them to go to the polls, it will be difficult for the MPP. Okay, so you need to figure that out and see how. Not only because you can't, if Nana retains his 5.7 million votes in 2020, it might not be enough to win a first round victory if he maintains. You need to grow the 5.7 million because you know definitely that NDC will not be as poor as they were. Okay.
At the time you're done with your 4-year mandate.
I think that's a challenge with incumbency. When you're an incumbent, and which again we saw this under the history has taught us. A lot of in politics, history does a lot to you. It shows you what can happen. Over the 8-year term of John Kufuor, he won quite handsomely. Of course, I mean it was not as significant in the 2000 elections, but in 2000, and if you look at it, 2004, he won. But it showed that it was more difficult when you are in government to win a second term, and even more difficult to hand over to a next person
to
from
gain
your own
what
party.
your opponent loses.
Exactly. So in 2020, because of the incumbency, you had challenges you have to surmount. You didn't would have stepped on people's toes to push through your. We've seen that even happen in the last 4 or 5 months. People who saying people were Galamsey guys who thought they had. I'm emphasizing this. Thought they had the president say, I'm not going to sack you. We're going to find ways and means to get you employed. Now they believe they are being sacked from their jobs. All of a sudden, they are not happy. So
all of those have implications by the time you finish your 4-year period.
In other words, you can realistically expect the NDC to do a bit better than they did in 2016. In other words, what you need to do is to find out how can we grow our 5.7 million that we used to win the last time in 2016.
Or in other words, how can we take over that
the huge chance
the numbers that the NDC lost
failed to bring to the table.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's why the review is crucial.
It's
although
crucial.
they've won, and somebody in the NDC MPP is thinking because they are not allowing the numbers. The percentage terms is quite significant, right?
But that would depend on the terms of reference that's given to the committee. So the terms of
reference.
It's a
review.
Okay, so the terms of reference is looking at the 2016 elections generally, and it's also looking at the parties. The party's bit of the election. It's looking at the general 2016 election, countrywide, and then it's looking at the party's role, what it did right, what it did wrong, and then it's also looking at the party's strategy for 2020.
Yeah, but in politics, you can only strategize when you have studied what history is teaching you, what the history says has happened. In other words, that's what I'm pointing at. When they do this review, the failures, because there were some, okay, the successes will teach you what new strategies to do. Because you see, the thing MPP needs to beat itself in 2020. That's what it is. They need to find a way to outdo itself in 2020, and it's not easy to do that.
Okay.
So to do that, you must necessarily find what were the weaknesses. See, people in 2016 want to change.
Yeah.
Okay. NDC was so bad for people that they didn't want to entertain them. That's why NDC's own followers, they don't go out to vote in their numbers the way they regularly do. So will the same conditions prevail in 2020? I bet it won't. Because they would have seen NDC in 4 years. And that's why I'm arguing now that whatever NDC, MPP still right now in 2020, still has its own destiny in its own hands. And this review that has been done, it shows a party that is, and I was going to say that point earlier, that somebody in the MPP is thinking smart about 2020.
Do you say that because of the timing? Because it's just they're barely 5 months in their 4-year tenure.
And for me, it's impressive. I mean, again, if you look at it in terms of parties who won power in the past, they may do some review, definitely. Not this early. I haven't seen this sort of
the winning party, do a review
this early, with this sort of publicity. It's not done. But it tells you something, that the NPP, like I've just analyzed, they've looked at the figures and they know that as they won in the percentage, if you look at them, it's significant. But it's only significant because the NDC dropped significantly. Because if you have two people contesting for an election, in 2000 and 2012, the percentage terms was of 1% or so difference, close to 2% difference between the defeat and victory. But here, we are talking about 4% plus difference. So you see, it's huge. But it's only because the other guy dropped. When the other guy drops, the other guy's percentage will go up. That is why they've looked at it and say, we shouldn't flatter ourselves that what we've won is something that we can take into 2020. If we sit and do nothing, NDC can bring their guys out to vote, and we might struggle to cross the one-third victory mark. So
let's assume that the NPP is thinking, and assume that you're looking at the timing, they're really actually thinking. But what do you say to the conspiracy theory also out there that this is really to divert attention sort of from the Bugrinabu, Otiko, Afisa Jaba, the feud that's going on basically. So we get people talk about the NPP rather than the two individuals who are...
In politics, don't rule out anything. Anything's possible in politics. So I'm not going to rule out anything. It's possible. Except that if you look at the fact, it's almost impossible to think that this would have been timed this way because Bugrinabu is just a few days phenomenon. At least in the public play of the dispute and the feud, it broke over the weekend. From what
and it's been trending.
Yeah, for what? So a few days. But I wasn't at the event. But from my colleague who was there, they had planned this. They had members that they had spoken to, and I'm just looking at the question in political ask is what is a gain in first telling us that you are having a national council meeting to address the Bugrinabu thing. And at the same time, whilst you're saying you're addressing it, you want to divert attention from it. I don't see the
because you can't help it. People will ask the questions anyway. If you're having a press conference, you have the media, they will talk about it.
I honestly don't think that the announcement of the review was necessarily because of the Bugrinabu thing. Because in any case, later tonight, they're going to hold a National Council meeting anyway. And I'm guessing the reason why they decided to do this announcement now was only because of the National Council meeting. Because whatever the announcement is will still have to be put before the National Council. And don't forget, the National Council of the MPP is the second highest decision-making body, only second to Congress. Which is a high decision-making body. It's a huge number of people are going to be there in this meeting. The last time I checked, the number in the region of 600. Now they're in power, maybe it might even be more. So the point I'm making is, whatever announcement has been made at this press conference will have to come before the National Council. If we don't outdoor it and get people to know that it's happening before you go to the meeting, after the meeting when everything is, the meeting will have to accept and say National Council, the review members, they will endorse it. Then after that, you come and announce and say, yeah, we have, that's a way to do it. That's what I'm saying. I'm not ruling it out because it's possible they want to put this out there for us to chase it. But there's really not much in the review committee to look at because there's nothing.
Because the party won?
Yeah, because the party won.
Yes,
no, I'm talking about its news publicity value in terms of its ability to spin us off Bugrinabu to it.
Well, right now we're talking about it.
Yes, but it's not as big as Bugrinabu. There's no way. There's nothing of substance. News, as you know, it's an organism. It must have elements of it that feeds it to grow. This has none of those values in terms of aspects that can feed it to grow. If we, for example, had a controversial figure, maybe they did something very outrageous with the announcement, and they said in the preliminary assessment, they said they had done a preliminary assessment that said they found that we won because, and they threw that in there. They said, they wanted to chase a red herring. But it was a simple announcement of members of a committee. I don't think that is big enough to get us off our...
Do we have any information on the members, the people on this committee, apart from, even the issues within, not issues per se, but, Fred Smith, my producer, went there this morning, and apparently there were there were name tags on the seat, and there was Mr. Adokufo's name as well. So Adokufo was he didn't show up, and then later we had another name for the leadership of that committee.
I mean, that is a curious one, and I must say. I mean, again, in politics, you must read meanings into everything, especially when a party is less than 6 months in power. There's a lot of power play still happening. A lot of people are not settled. People are still looking for positions. People are feel they've been sidelined already. People feel they've been ignored and abandoned by the president. So all that is at play still. And so, and again, because of the personality of Adokufo, who this year, since they won power, we've spoken to him when he's publicly criticized the way something had been handled. I've forgotten what exactly it was, but he came up publicly to say he wasn't in favor of the way that whatever is. I'm going to check very shortly. Okay. But clearly, when you allow something like that to happen, you have his name tag that doesn't show up, and you bring a good friend of mine, Pukudusa, to come and then take over and do the introduction. People are going to ask questions, legitimately so. Why didn't he show up? And I'm told they didn't even explain it because his name was still in the press statement that was read out. Fred tells me his name was in it. And so his name was in it. Obviously, once to type his name into a speech, you would have done a lot of consultations with him. And then he doesn't show up, although his name tag is there. Questions will be asked. And if it's nothing, then he should have explained. Because, look, emergencies do happen. So if the guy says, I'm stuck in Kumasi or whatever it is, and the plane is delayed, I can't get there on time, you tell us. But to be mute on it.
But if you listen to his remarks, John Boydo's remarks about leadership, he mentions the name Dr.
Adokufo.
No, not Dr. Adokufo. He mentions Dr. Pukudusa in his remarks. So it could be that if it's a mistake, whatever it is, was detected much earlier before they seated.
Yeah, I mean,
the press conference.
It just raises the conspiracy theories a bit, even because if you have his name tag there at the
press conference, and the name in the press release
is Adokufo,
but the name that comes out, the name that is read is a different name.
Yeah, I mean, it raises all manner of. So people, those who are watching should listen to this. I mean, from what you say. You have his name tag there, Adokufo. In the press statement, you have the leader of the committee as Adokufo again, and then but in the verbalization of that script, the name that we are told is Pukudusa. But when Pressman gets the hard copy, it's Adokufo who is in it. I'm from what Fred tells us, that's what happens. That raises a lot of questions.
Okay, well, I'm sure the party leadership.
But it's simple. I mean, I'm saying just communicate, tell us what's happening. If we don't, then we'll fill it with all these conspiracies.
It's all about communication. So just so you don't leave room for speculations, well, the party leadership perhaps will be answering that. But Evans, to wrap up on this conversation, will it be more of personality? Or will it be more of issues? Will it be for the review? I mean, in your estimation, will it be more of the personality that made them win? Will it be more of issues? Will it be more of the socio-cultural analysis?
I think it's the latter, because just with the benefit of traveling across the country with the ballot box and seeing and hearing what people were talking about, I think it's, if you look at, if you do a scale of, in percentage terms, in terms of what led to the outcome of the elections, I'll say 70%, of the reason is because people were just not happy with the way the country was being run under the past government. So it boils down to the socio-economic issues fundamentally. And then the rest will come to play. The personality, the ethnic background, the ability of the person to connect. All those factors will form the 25%. But I believe the socio-economic factors were 75% of the reason why the MPP won and the NDC lost.
Right. Thank you very much, Evans, for that insightful analysis. Evans Mensah is head of our political desk here at JoyNews, helping us, just to have our way with what the NPP has just started. Like I said, later today they will be having the National Council meeting of the party, and they'll be looking at the Bugri Nabu, Otiko feud that's ongoing. If I could quickly engage you on that, Evans.
I mean, I was wondering. I mean, it's still a subject that's so
exactly
at play.
Yeah, we will be playing those sound bites. And earlier, Fred spoke to John Boydo on the sidelines of that press conference as well, and he mentions it as part of the things we'll be looking at the National Council. By the way,
you know, just before we came on, I was speaking to Bill Greenabo a short while ago, and he was telling me he's yet to meet the president because the president apparently is in Kumasi for the launch
Kumasi
of exactly Kumasi.
Not the Kumasi Mall, the Kumasi Mall.
Yeah. I mean. So essentially, he's not met him yet, but he's still expecting to meet the president.
Yeah.
But he's spoken today. I mean, we played it on our media news in which he says he's raising questions about Otuku Jaba still not happy. He actually said something at the end.
Even after she apologized.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday when I spoke to him, he felt that Otuku Fisa Jaba's apology was she should have apologized to him as an individual.
Okay.
In addition to apologizing to the country and to the president, he asked me, for example, did she apologize to me? I'm told she didn't apologize to me. I'm like, yeah, I need to go. So I went to listen to it and I came back.
She didn't
mention his name. In fact, she insisted to you that the man disrespected her and tried to bully her, etc., etc. So that is still at play. That hopefully will be resolved at the National Council meeting. I don't know how it will be resolved, but it should be resolved. Even after he's met with the president, it's still going to be interesting how, because you see, the man is a difficult person to deal with publicly. And whether the president's meeting can sober him enough not to go out there and, say other things that will raise the bar of suspicion as far as the two of them are concerned. That for me remains to be seen. I was just talking about Adoko for that criticism. Yeah. When they formed the Ghana 50 committee, he was one
Ghana
of those
60 or
Ghana 60. Forgive me. Was one of the few stalls of the party who publicly went out there to criticize the committee. He wasn't happy. He thought it was extravagant.
Okay.
So when you look at that and you bring him back to the man is criticizing his own government and power. Then he put him on a comedy.
Those are the kind of people you're looking for in politics to keep you on your toes, isn't it?
People who can keep you honest.
Yeah.
But in politics, if you keep, it can be a dicey place to be.
That's a different debate. That's a debate for another day. But finish up with the article.
So for me, tonight it should be resolved. Because I spoke to yesterday, I also spoke to a founding member of the party, but also an elder in the party, part of the Council of Elders, who was very livid about what is happening between the two of them. And he was going to go to this council meeting and tell them his peace of mind and propose sanctions if needs be. And so that's how serious they're taking it. So when this is done, this meeting is done, all of them will whip the line. And if somebody crosses the line after that, I shudder for them, because from what I heard from that founding member, they're going to be very strict on the two of them.
With the two of them?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Evans. We've been talking NPP. This is still The Pulse with Make It Tea and Up here. I'm taking a quick break. I'll be right back. Please stay.